The sky was an unbroken sheet of gray, the kind that presses down on your chest and makes every step feel heavier. It was one of those rare mornings when the city seemed to hold its breath, the usual hum of traffic and chatter reduced to an almost eerie silence. Malcolm Hart, a single dad with tired eyes and calloused hands, was juggling his life like a circus act, dropping off his daughter, packing lunchboxes, and running through emails on a cracked phone screen that barely held a charge. Today was especially critical. He had a job interview that could finally lift him out of the dead-end position he had been stuck in for months. The stakes were high, higher than the towering skyline that loomed over him. As Malcolm sprinted across the street toward the office building where his interview awaited, a sudden scream shattered the monotony of the morning. A thin plume of smoke curled upward from an alley between two aging brick buildings. Instinct overrode everything else. He didn't stop to think about the interview, didn't calculate the cost. His heart raced as he ran toward the smoke, adrenaline sharpening every sense. At the alley entrance, flames licked at a dumpster, growing faster than he could have imagined. And there, trapped behind a pile of burning debris, was a woman, her face streaked with soot, eyes wide with panic. Malcolm didn't hesitate. He leapt over the burning dumpster, pulling a metal pipe from the ground to shield himself from the heat. Each step was a battle, his lungs burning, his heart hammering, but he kept moving forward. Reaching the woman, he grabbed her hands, pulling with every ounce of strength in his body. The fire crackled like it was alive, threatening to consume everything in its path. With a final, desperate lunge, he dragged her out of the flames just as a section of the wall collapsed behind them. Both of them fell to the wet pavement, coughing and shaking, hearts pounding in unison. The woman was trembling violently, her mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hands shaking as she tried to regain composure. Malcolm, soaked in sweat and ash, offered a weak smile. "You're safe now," he said, voice rough from shouting over the fire. "That's all that matters." It was only after the ambulance left and the fire was under control that Malcolm caught a glimpse of her face, this time without the soot and terror. And then it hit him like a punch to the gut. The woman he had just saved was none other than Vanessa St. Clair, the notoriously ruthless CEO of the tech company that had fired him only 6 months earlier. The company that had dismissed him after a single mistake, a lapse that had cost him everything he had been working for. The same company where he had poured years of dedication, sleepless nights, and sacrifice, only to be cast aside like trash. Malcolm froze, his chest tightening. Vanessa's eyes met his, wide with shock and something else, something unfamiliar, almost vulnerable. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice trembling despite her usual commanding tone. He nodded, unable to speak. The weight of the past collided with the intensity of the moment. "I couldn't let you," he started, but stopped. The words felt hollow. He had saved a woman he had once resented. The irony was unbearable, and yet, strangely, it didn't matter. At that moment, life was simpler than jobs, office politics, and grudges. Life was about survival, and right now, they had survived together. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Stories of Kindness. Vanessa slowly straightened, brushing ash from her designer coat, her usual poise returning as she assessed Malcolm in the harsh morning light. "Malcolm Hart," she said slowly, her tone even but tinged with disbelief. "I remember you." "Yes," he said, his jaw tight. "You fired me." Vanessa blinked, a flicker of shame crossing her features, quickly masked by her composure. "That was a long time ago," she replied, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. I never expected you to," she trailed off, eyes scanning the scorched alley. "I never expected anyone to risk themselves like that for me." Malcolm looked down at his hands, blackened and raw, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I didn't think about it," he admitted. "It just felt like the right thing to do." As the day wore on, Malcolm returned home to his tiny apartment, the smell of smoke still clinging to his clothes, his mind spinning. His daughter, Arya, ran into his arms, chattering about school and art projects, blissfully unaware of the morning's near-death ordeal. Malcolm held her close, thinking of the delicate balance of his life, the love he carried for her, the struggles he endured for her, and now, the unexpected collision with a past he thought he had left behind. Meanwhile, Vanessa couldn't shake the image of Malcolm's unwavering bravery from her mind. She had been in countless boardrooms, handled crises that threatened millions, but nothing had prepared her for witnessing raw, uncalculated courage like that. And somewhere in that realization, something shifted. She began questioning the harsh decisions she had made, the cold dismissals, the transactional nature of her interactions with people. Malcolm had given her something she couldn't buy or control: humanity. Days passed, and the story of the fire began to circulate, and Vanessa, intrigued and unsettled by the moral compass Malcolm had displayed, invited him to coffee, not as a job applicant, but as the man who had saved her life. Sitting across from him in a quiet cafe, the clamor of the city muted by the small, warm space, she finally looked him in the eye. "I owe you," she admitted. "More than just a thank you. I want to make this right." Malcolm raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "Make what right? The job? The past?" Vanessa shook her head. "Everything. I don't expect forgiveness for my decisions before, but I want to try and do better. I want to help you, if you'll let me." It wasn't easy for Malcolm to consider, even with the embers of resentment smoldering. Yet, in her sincerity, he saw an opportunity, not just for employment, but for healing. It was a chance to rewrite the narrative of anger, frustration, and despair into something that could foster trust and redemption. He realized that kindness, even when not expected, had the power to transform lives. Weeks turned into months, and Malcolm found himself back in the same company, but this time in a role that valued him, appreciated his dedication, and recognized his integrity. Vanessa had taken measures to ensure a healthier work environment, inspired by Malcolm's courage and authenticity. And through it all, Malcolm never forgot that it had all begun in a fiery alley, where he had made a split-second choice to help another human being, regardless of past grievances. In the evenings, he would return home to Arya, sharing meals and stories, laughing over the chaos of their small apartment. There were still struggles, of course, bills to pay, deadlines to meet, the endless challenge of single parenthood, but the air was lighter, the burden somehow more bearable. Malcolm had learned that life had a way of balancing the scales in the most unexpected ways. One rainy afternoon, as Malcolm walked home from work, he noticed a small plaque near the entrance of the alley that had nearly claimed Vanessa's life. Someone had placed it there quietly: "Courage and kindness can change everything." He paused, a lump forming in his throat, and realized that the words weren't just for him or Vanessa, they were a message for everyone who believed in the quiet power of selflessness. Before the story ends, take a moment to think about someone who might need a second chance in your life. Sometimes, the smallest acts of bravery and kindness ripple further than we can imagine.